Hi. All right, so welcome to Simple Self-Publishing from Blogger to Author. This presentation is designed to help you as a blogger know how you can navigate the self-publishing process and use your existing content and audience to help make it a lot easier for you. You've already got a leg up versus people who don't have a blog at this point. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover from concept to bookshelf briefly. We'll go over the pros and cons of self-publishing, using your existing content to create a book, steps to publishing your own book. This will be a very basic overview because there are a lot of steps. Where to publish your book, the different platforms you can use, and then where to promote your book. And then I've got a couple bonuses at the end. Hi, I'm Teresa Goodrich. I am the founder of The Local Tourist. I'm an author and publisher. All of those books listed above, or listed below, I should say, are books that I have published and written. Two of them are anthologies with other members of the Midwest Travel Network. The Midwest Road Trip Adventures and Midwest State Park Adventures are both anthologies that I have published. I'm a writing coach. I teach the Midwest Travel Network's writing workshop, which is how I met Barb. Thank you for coming to that and for being here today. A speaker as well. I actually just spoke last week at the Midwest Travel Network conference, and I gave this presentation there. So I thought it would be a good idea to have a replay so I can record it and share it with people who couldn't make it to the conference. I'm an Emmy winner and I'm also a cancer survivor. And the reason I mention that is not to say, hey, woe was me. I had cancer and I survived. It's really to point out that this is it's an easy process. It can be very overwhelming because there are so many steps to it, but it's actually very easy. So the arrow was pointing to my book, Living Landmarks of Chicago. I published that book April 21st, 2021. And that was 5 days before I finished my last chemo treatment. And that's also not to say, oh, aren't you impressed? This is to say, if I can do this while I'm undergoing chemo, then anybody can do it. It's like I said, it's just a series of steps. All the books remaining have been published since then. The Planning Your Perfect Road Trip is actually a new edition of a book I'd published last year called Complete Road Trip Guide for Grownups. It wasn't selling well, needed a new title, needed a new cover. I expanded it, published Planning Your Perfect Road Trip in February of 2023. Midwest Road Trip Adventures came out in October of 2022, and Midwest State Park Adventures came out in May of 2023. Now, those two books involve 14 and 15 authors, so it was a lot of work, a lot of formatting, a lot involved, but I could do it because I self-published and could do it so quickly because of self-publishing. The bottom three books are my novels, and I have another book coming out in July. That'll be my third novel. So as of this year, this is June 15th of 2023, and I have already published 3 books this year, and I will have a 4th coming out in July. So halfway through the year, and I've already published 3 books. It is doable if you just follow the steps, which we will get into. So what is self-publishing? The very basic definition is that it's a process of arranging and paying for your own book to be published rather than having it done by a publisher. So if you are self-publishing, then you are doing everything yourself. We also call it independent publishing. And a lot of independent publishers will bristle at the term self-publishing because it has somewhat of a bad connotation. Barb just asked what's Turkeys or Jerks about. That was my first book, and it's actually Two-Lane Gems, Volume 1, Turkeys or Jerks and Other Observations from an American Road Trip. So it's a travel memoir about a 31-day road trip. And then the second book in the series is Two-Lane Gems, Volume 2, Bison or Giant and Other Observations from an American Road Trip. Eventually, there will be a book 3, probably this year, but that's down the road. So back to the conflict between self-publishing and indie publishing. It's just there's been a kind of a bad reputation about self-publishing, especially among people who have been traditionally published for a while. They would think, oh, you only self-publish if you can't get a publisher or you can't get an agent. And that's simply not the case now and hasn't been for quite some time. So a lot of authors also say independent publishing. I go by either. I believe I put my whole self into my book, so I'm okay with saying that I'm self-published. I wrote the book and I published the book and I did it myself, so I'm okay with that. But I will also go by independent publisher. So why would you want to publish your own book? First of all, you have complete control. If you've had a traditional publisher, then you know that you don't have much control. You don't have control over the timeline. You don't have control over the cover. You don't have control over the interior formatting. You don't even have control over the content because they have their own editors who are going to adjust it for you. So if you are publishing yourself, then you have complete control from concept to bookshelf. You're also faster to market. I mentioned earlier the fact that I had published so many books this year already, and that's because as soon as a book's done, then I can publish it. The deadline for the contributors to Midwest State Park Adventures was April 15th. That book was out by May 5th. They had to have all their submissions to me by April 15th, and it was out in just a couple of weeks. That's including formatting with images and maps and an index and table of contents. And we also had tables that list every state park. So there was a lot involved, but because we're self-published, because I was doing the publishing, we could do it in, very, very quickly. Another reason for publishing your own book is more money. You get so much more money if you are the publisher because you're not sharing that royalty split with the publisher, with their agent, with all these other people. So if you are publishing, let's say KDP, then you will typically get 70% royalties. Some other places might be a little less, but you get to keep all of that. And if with a traditionally published book, you might make $1 to $2. That's on the high end per book sold, depending on the retail price. With some of my books, I can make up to $10 royalties per book. So I can sell a lot fewer books to make the same amount of money. Or if I sell more books, I can make a lot more money. It's also another reason to self-publish is because you own all the rights. If you want to publish a different format or publish a second edition or anything you want to do, put the content from the book, put excerpts in your blog or on your website or in another book, you can do that. You have the freedom. Right now, my husband, is recording the audiobook of Living Landmarks of Chicago, and we can do that. I didn't have to ask permission for anybody. We can just record it. We can create multiple format. Most of my books have hardcover edition, ebook editions, and paperback, except for the fiction. They're just ebook and paperback, but I can do that because I'm the one publishing it. Basically, when you are an independent publisher, when you're self-published, you can do whatever you want. Joanna Penn is she's a creative entrepreneur, a podcaster, and her podcast, A Creative Penn, is one of my favorite things to listen to. And on a recent episode, she said, people say there are rules in indie, but there aren't. We are independent authors. We can do whatever we want. And that is definitely one of the biggest benefits of self-publishing. Okay. Now, why wouldn't you want to publish your own book? Well, everything's out of pocket. You're paying for the editor, you're paying for the cover design, you're paying for the interior formatting. You are paying for everything and all the software you might use to get this thing published. Anything that's involved comes out of your pocket. It's also because there are a lot of steps and you are the one doing it. So that's, do you have the time? Do you have the interest? At the Midwest Travel Network conference, after my talk, somebody came up to me and said, I was on the fence about publishing my own book. And then after your talk, I've decided not to, because she said, I didn't realize how much was involved. And that's very valid. And that's what I said to her. It's like, that's good to know that before you even get started. So sometimes you just don't want to take that time out. It's not that you don't have as much passion for it. And that's perfectly fine. There are also lots of decisions to make. We'll go later into some of the decisions you'll have to make about just the interior design. I mean, you've got to design, you figure out the font, the justification, headers and footers and front matter and back matter and all of that. And that's just the interior of the book. The other decisions include where you're going to market it. Are you going to put it in Kindle Unlimited, or are you going to go wide? And that's a discussion we'll get into a little bit later as well. So there are a lot of decisions you have to make along the way. And sometimes you're just like, I just let somebody else handle it, and that's fine. There's also the stereotype that a self-published book equals bad writing. And as I said earlier, that is simply not the case. It's not true. If anybody's heard of Colleen Hoover, how many books does she have in the top 100 or top 50 best-selling on Amazon? And she's on the New York Times bestseller list. Well, she started off as self-publishing and still does a lot of self-publishing. She also has gotten traditional publishing deals, but so she's now hybrid, but she got there through self-publishing. And there are a ton of other examples. I'm in a Facebook group called 20 Books to 50K. It's 20 T-O 50K is the name of the Facebook group. And the idea is if you write 20 books, you can make $50,000 a year. I mean, that was the premise for when the group started. They also have a conference in Vegas every November, and the biggies come and speak. Joanna Penn is one of them, and lots of others. But there is so much incredible advice from multiple 6-figure and 7-figure authors. And they just share willingly and how they got there and the steps that they've taken. And so I'm in there every day. It's incredibly inspirational. I'm not a 6-figure author yet, but because I'm in this group and I'm learning and I'm seeing it is absolutely possible, I will get there. So there's also, if you don't want to publish yourself, if you have a publisher, there's easier distribution in bookstores. It's just much easier to get into the Barnes and Nobles, the physical retail bookstores. However, you can also be in retail stores and bookstores when you self-publish with one of the platforms that we'll go into a little bit later. But it's easier if you're traditionally published. They have all of those funnels and silos and connections in place. So it's a lot easier. If your dream is to be in all the brick and mortar bookstores, then traditional publishing is probably the way you want to go. Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty a little bit. So how would you use your existing content? Let's say you decided to self-publish, actually, even if you decided to traditionally publish, although you might have a little more of a challenge because your content won't be unique to the book if you're using it from your blog. So we'll assume you've decided to self-publish. We're going to use some of your existing content from your blog. Now, typically, when you've got a blog, unless you're a very broad lifestyle site, then you have various content silos. Like for me, I write a lot about road trips, great outdoors, arts and culture, and I do specific destination guides. So your website, if you have similar silos, can be a goldmine of stories and experiences that you can then compile into a book. So review this content that you already have on your site and that you've already published or produced, or maybe you've got a long time career as a freelancer, and so you've got all of this research and content that you've had out there. Brainstorm the topics that you really want to write about. And then you can combine your existing articles based on the different themes that you found that really connect with you. And then once you've combined them and in a logical order, then you can just fill in the gaps and add transitions to create a flowing narrative. That's basically what I did with both my Two Lane Gems books. So Barb, I'm glad you asked about that earlier, because those books are written chronologically for 31 and 35-day road trips, respectively. But when I got home, I didn't jump into writing the book in a sense. Because what I did was I wrote the stories from the trip and I published them on my site, The Local Tourist. And then I would see what needed to be tweaked and what needed to be modified. And then they ended up going into the book. And in the book, they're strictly chronological. On the site, I would include more detailed information. Like so somebody was asking about things to do in northern Nebraska. And I pulled up my article on Smith Falls State Park, which has the largest waterfall or the tallest waterfall in Nebraska. we camped there during our trip that became the Tulane Gems 2 Bison or Giant book. So that's a perfect example. I wrote about Smith Falls on the local tourist, and then I added more information about if you're visiting State Falls, this is what you get, or Smith Falls, this is what you could expect. These are the fees, this is the parking, all the kind of information you'd want if you were actually planning a trip there. For the book, I just included the narrative, the prose, and included the transition into the next day and the next destination. You can also publish your articles as a series of vignettes. That's what I did with Living Landmarks of Chicago. Now, with that book, I published them in the book first, and occasionally I will pull out chapters and publish them on my site. So that's a little backwards from this methodology, but they are a series of vignettes. So each chapter is anywhere from 1,500 to maybe 2,500, 3,000 words. I've got 50 landmarks, and each one stands alone. However, in the book, if you read it from start to finish, then you can see these different historical threads that kind of connect different areas, but you don't have to. So it's basically a series of vignettes, and you can do that with your own content. So I'm going to use road trips as an example again. So if you've taken a lot of road trips, like maybe you've driven Route 66 and the Pacific Coast Highway and the Great River Road, and you've written about those trips, then you can combine them into one book of beautiful road trips in the United States. So that's just one example of how you can combine existing content, or actually that was a couple examples of how you can combine existing content to create a book. Now, what is a self-publishing process? Write the book, edit the book, publish the book. Okay, we're done. I mean, just kidding. It's a very simplistic steps, but that's pretty much what it is. So your first step is writing the book, and I'm not going to go into that because there are courses and books, and there's so much advice and all the groups that you can find that talk about writing the book itself. Editing the book is a multi-step process. It's one you want to edit yourself, and then you also want to have what are called beta readers. These are about 3 or 4 people that you trust, and they will read your book before it's gone through a ton of editing. They're reading it to see if it makes sense, if they enjoy it. They're reading it. Sometimes, they'll pull out some, if they see some glaring grammatical errors and spelling errors and things like that, they'll let you know. I typically have 3 to 4 beta readers for my books. And I don't want any more than that because you don't want too many chefs in the kitchen. Otherwise there can be too many opinions, and you don't want to be too distracted and be overwhelmed by it. You don't have to accept all of their suggestions. My parents are 2 of my beta readers, and they are fantastic. They may be my parents, but they're honest, and that is one of the key ingredients to having a good beta reader, is that they are going to be honest with you. They're not going to say, "Oh, it's great," when they don't really think so, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. They're going to say, "This makes no sense at all," or they might put a little nicer than that. But anyway, so my dad is one of my beta readers, and there are a lot of times he'll suggest things that I think, "Oh, thank you. You are so right." And then there are other times he'll suggest things, and I say, no, and this is why. But this is why it's good to have beta readers, because you can disagree with them. And when you do that, you need to defend why you've made the decision that you've made and why you're keeping that content. So beta readers are a very important part of the whole editing process. You also want to use a program of some sort, like Pro Writing Aid, Grammarly, AutoCrit. Words, although it's getting better now that Bing has started incorporating AI. So just make sure that you're running it through some sort of grammar checker, because you could know every grammar rule in the world and you're going to miss things. You could be able to spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious without even blinking, and but you could misspell something like, I don't know, motor. You could write 2 T's accidentally, or maybe you've got somebody named Philip, and he spells his name with 1 L, and you put in Philip with 2 L's. So you can, using some sort of program to check your work can help find all those things. And then, of course, hiring an editor. This is something, I mean, editors can be expensive, but it's incredibly important to have somebody else read your work. And this reads specifically for grammar and for spelling, because you're going to miss things. I mean, my books go through go through the 3 to 4 beta readers. I've got an editor. I put them through a program. I read it a gazillion times, and I still find errors in the published book because you're so close to it. You're just too close to it. So it's just a good idea. Edit it as many times as you can, and if you can't afford to hire somebody, I recommend doing that. Okay. Now we're going to go into the publishing process. So I mentioned earlier the interior design is a big part of publishing the book. So you've written your manuscript, it's edited. You're ready to, turn it into a book. This is what you're going to do to get to that finished product. The first part's going to be your interior design. Your interior design includes deciding what your front matter is and your back matter. Your front matter includes things like your table of contents. If you're going to have an epigraph, which is a quote, you're going to have a dedication. Maybe if you've written other books, you might have your also by, and then list the other books you've written. And so there are different things. Oh, your copyright page is often, that's part of your front matter as well. And these are all for print. Your back matter, things like that goes in the front. Your index, acknowledgements, any footnotes you might have or endnotes, and if you have an appendix, if you've got a bibliography, that's all your end matter. In my Alex Page travel mysteries, I always include a recipe, so that goes into my back matter. So those are things. What are you going to include in your back matter? Other interior design considerations include what kind of font you're going to use. Are you going to, and for both the header and for the body text, and you want to make sure the body text is big enough for people to read. Headers and footers. Are you going to have the page numbers on the bottom in the footer or in the header? Are you going to have the chapter title at the top of each chapter and then maybe the author name on the other side? Or are you going to have the book name and the author name? Or are you just going to have the name of the book? I mean, you can decide. There are many, many different ways to do it, but those are a lot of the considerations. And I do have a whole section on that in this self-publishing course that I have. Cover design. So you've got your interior design. Now you can do your cover design. You can design the front cover at any point because it doesn't matter how many pages you have. So say for an ebook, you can design the front cover at any point. And if you can get it designed earlier in the process, that's probably better because then you can use it for promoting your book. However, you cannot design the full cover for a paperback or hardcover until that manuscript is done, until you've got all the interior design, because you have to know the number of pages in the book. That dictates the width of the spine, so that dictates the size of the entire file, because it's one file, it's a PDF from front to back. So then you get the cover design. Now you can do it yourself. A lot of people recommend, and I tend to design my own. I've gotten much better over the years. But you can also hire designers. There are some inexpensive ones, like Get Covers is out of the Ukraine. And last time I checked, they were $35 to get a book cover designed. I didn't end up using it, but I had no problem paying the money because they're in the Ukraine. So that's one. There's also 99, and I'm drawing a blank on the rest of the title. There's a site called Reedsy, and they have a whole list. They have editors and cover designers. So they have a whole marketplace where you can find people to hire to help you with these parts of the book. Okay, so you've got your cover, you've got the manuscript. Now you need to figure out, before you upload your book, you've got to get your metadata. The metadata are the categories where your book is going to be housed, and this is how they're shelved, basically. They're shelved either virtually on the bookstores, or they're shelved in the actual bookshelves. So that includes your keywords. In Amazon, when you're uploading to Amazon, you get 7 sets of keywords, And that is how the readers can find your books, because Amazon is basically just a search engine. It's for a product search engine, but it's a search engine. So you're going to have those keywords as well. It also includes your book blurb. That's what you can often put on the back of your book, or also the description on your sales page. When you go to a book's page on Amazon, that is considered the sales page. If you have it on your own website, that's a sales page. So that book blurb, that book description is also part of your metadata. Now, you also need an ISBN. That's an International Standard Book Number. This number differentiates your book from every other book. It is a 13-digit number. Used to be 10 digits, but they needed more. So it's a 13-digit number. You get it from a company called Bowker, Bowker. And they are the only place in the United States where you can get your own ISBN. There are some places that will say they will sell you one, but if they do, then you will be publishing your book under their name. There are places that also say they will give you a free one. Like you can get a free ISBN from Barnes and Noble if you publish with them, but you can't use that ISBN anywhere else. So if you want to publish your book with Amazon or anywhere else, then you're going to need a separate ISBN for the same book. So it's just better to get your own and use it. They are a little pricey. It's $125 for one, or you can get 10 for $295, which is what I recommend, because you need an ISBN for each format. For ebook, paperback, and hardcover, you each get their own individual ISBN. A lot of people will say that you don't need an ISBN for ebook. If you're only going to publish that ebook on Amazon, then no, you don't. But if you want to have it in Nook, which is Barnes and Noble's digital reader, Kobo, Smashwords, all the others, then you'll want to have your own ISBN. Okay, so you've got your ISBN, you've got your metadata, and you've got the book itself. Now it's time to upload it. There are multiple platforms, and that's what we're going to talk about in the next screen. So you upload your book to the various platforms, and then you're kind of done, because once you've uploaded it, then they start to distribute, and your book is out in the wild. It's out there for sale, and you are a published author. Yay! Okay, so the next step is, where do you actually publish your book? So many platforms. The biggie, of course, is Amazon. Amazon is called KDP. It's Kindle Direct Publishing. It used to be called Create. So if you ever hear anybody talk about Create or Amazon Create, that is now KDP, or Kindle Direct Publishing. With them, you can publish a paperback, a hardback, or an ebook. If you choose to publish your ebook with Amazon, which of course you want to, because they sell 80% of the books, was the last figure that I'd seen. You have a choice of choosing to go through their KDP Select program. If you choose that, you choose it. It's for 90 days. It's a commitment for 90 days. And then you are available. Your book is available in Kindle Unlimited, which is their subscription program. So sounds great. People can read your book for free, and then you get paid per page read. The pay is about 0.004 something cents per page read. So people have to read a lot of pages to really make some money, but it is possible and it's doable. However, if you publish with KDP Select, you cannot put your ebook anywhere else. You can't publish it in Apple, Google, Nook, on your own website, nowhere else. It can only be in KDP Select. So that's something to think about. That's something to really consider, and look at your particular genre when you are deciding to see. If most of the books are in Kindle Unlimited, then you'll probably want to be in Kindle Unlimited too. But if it's kind of hit or miss, then you'll want to go, what they say, you'll want to go wide. And that means you're distributing your book widely to every platform you can. Okay. The next one is Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark is a print-on-demand company. By the way, all of these are print-on-demand, or they're ebook only. Ingram Spark is print-on-demand, and the reason you want to upload your books to them is because they have the largest worldwide distribution. So that is how you'll get your book in Barnes and Noble, and in Walmart, and in Target, and all the other retailers. If a retailer wants to order your book and you tell them I'm in Ingram, they'll know how to get it. They can order it. So definitely upload it to Ingram. They used to charge $49 per upload. Fortunately, they have done away with that. So now you can upload your book for free, And then you have, I believe, 6 months to make revisions. It used to be if you had any changes, it was $25 to upload any changes. Now it's free, I believe, for the first 6 months, or it might be 6 uploads. I'm going to have to confirm that. But now it's free to upload the original manuscript. The only thing is if your book sells to any retailers or through their distribution, they will take a 1% marketing fee. I think that's a decent trade-off. Because most books aren't going to, a lot of books are not going to sell enough to make it be $49. But if you are selling it and they take that 1% fee, that means your book's sold and you've gotten the rest of the royalties, which are all yours because you're self-publishing. So Ingram Spark is definitely their platform, however, is pretty, it can be problematic, and their customer service is really, really slow. They have a Facebook group, and it seems to consist of people mainly complaining about how they can't get a hold of anybody. So that's something to consider but because they are the elephant in the room, if you want your books in bookstores and libraries too, and you need to upload it to them, you can also choose to upload to Draft to Digital. Draft to Digital is they're basically like, they disseminate your book to multiple platforms. They are not a platform themselves, but they disseminate it to others. So that's how you can upload your ebook to them. They'll format it as well. You can just upload a Word doc file, and they'll format it. You can review it, of course. And then it's distributed to all the other bookstores, including Amazon if you want, but you can uncheck that box. But that's how the ebooks are distributed to Amazon and Apple and Google and Hoopla and Overdrive and all of the other bookstores. And then it's one stop, instead of you having to manually go to each of those platforms. And there are some platforms where you can't even manually upload it. This service takes care of it all, and it's free. They just take a cut of the royalties whenever a book's sold. Now, they recently started offering print as well, and they print through Ingram Spark. So their interface is much easier to use, and their customer service is much better. So a lot of authors will elect to upload to Draft to Digital and take the hit on the royalties. They'll just give them some extra money just to take the headache out of it. I had been using Ingram since 2018, so I'm just kind of used to it now. So I just stick with Ingram. But a lot of people do choose to go Draft to Digital. Now, when you upload a Draft to Digital, you can elect to send your ebook to Kobo Writing Life. Don't do that. Uncheck that box because you want to upload your book directly to Kobo Writing Life. The reason for this is they also have a subscription service, and it's Kobo Plus, I believe. But unlike Amazon, they are not exclusive. You can elect to be in their subscription program and still distribute your books everywhere else, including Amazon. The reason you want to upload independently and upload directly to Kobo Writing Life is because if you do, then you can participate in some of their promotions. I haven't done it yet. I've just recently begun uploading my books to Kobo Writing Life, so that's something I'll be testing out with my next book coming out, and trying to participate in some of their promotions. The local tours, I'm not saying you can publish there, but you could publish to your own website. I love selling direct. I love it when people order books I've written directly from me, so that I can autograph them and put them in the envelope and send them in the mail. It just gives me a little thrill to know that I'm directly connecting with my readers. You also make a lot more profit that way too, because if somebody buys your book through Amazon, there's the printing cost, then they take a portion of the proceeds. So with print, I believe you get 60% royalties after printing costs. So they take 40%. If you sell direct, Amazon takes the printing cost, you get the rest of the royalties. So there is a bigger chunk. I mean, you have to factor in the time it takes to, do the packaging, put it in the envelope and sign it and send it out. However, there is a new service that is just now launching it's new to the US. It had been in the UK for quite some time, and I think they're out of the UK. Kobo's out of Canada. It's called Book Vault. They're out of the UK. They've just launched in the US. They were supposed to launch May 29th. I haven't seen if they are actually live now, but what they offer is a lot of different formats for printing. So with them, you can have more options than you do with Amazon, which is only paperback, hardcover, and ebook. And the paperback and hardcover are in different, limited trim sizes, which is the size of the book. Oh yeah, that's another decision you had to make way back when. If you're going to go 5x8 or 6x9 or 8.5x11, so that's something to consider too. But with Book Vault, you can connect it to WooCommerce. If you use WooCommerce on your website, or maybe you use Shopify, you just create a store on Shopify. It connects directly to WooCommerce or to Book Vault, so that if somebody buys a book, they'll ship it, and you never touch it. If you want to have that personal connection, you can also offer to your readers, like, hey, if you buy a book through my site, then I will send you a signed book plate. I will be testing this out soon. What I will probably do is offer a discount. I will still offer the autographed books. But then I will maybe offer a discount to somebody who orders it through Book Vault, because I'll be going directly through them, and I won't be actually touching the book or having to keep the inventory. Something I'll consider. Okay, the last option on here is Kickstarter. Kickstarter is not a publishing platform. It is more of a place to promote your book. We recently just did the Kickstarter for the audiobook for Living Landmarks of Chicago. Kickstarter is a good way to test the market, because if you bring 25 people, they'll bring some of their audience as well. So you can expand your readership that way. It's also a way to generate excitement. And then you can offer more things to your readers than you could if you're just selling the book through one of these platforms. So it's just a good way to, kind of be a bit more creative. Like with the audiobooks, I'm also adding images to the existing copies of Living Landmarks of Chicago, both the ebook and the paperback and the hardcover. And then we also offer audio tours. So some people they could upgrade, and we'll send them audio tours. So you've got all these different possibilities that you can do. It is a lot of work, because it's not a one and done. It's a multi-day. We did 17 days, and there's a lot of promotion involved, and you feel like you're kind of hammering your audience a bit, but it can also be very rewarding, and they don't feel like they're being hammered, especially the fans that really want to support you. Okay, so we're about 46 minutes in. All right, now how to promote your book. Now, if you're blogging already, or if you've got an existing audience, like Deidre, you've got an existing audience with your show, and Barb, you've got an existing audience as well. You're already ahead of the curve, because so many authors start from scratch and they don't have that network. They don't have social media accounts, except maybe for their personal Facebook page. They don't have an audience that wants to read them. So you're already ahead of the curve that way. There's so many different ways to promote your book. This is just scratching the surface, barely. Social media, of course, the different accounts. I do recommend picking one or two that you enjoy and sticking with those. Don't try to be everywhere, because that's impossible. An email list. If you have an email list, fantastic. If you haven't, it is never too early to start building one. It's typically good to offer them something in exchange for the email address. So I have lead magnets. For my fiction, I have a quick short story that people can download for free. And then that way they know if they like my writing style and they like my protagonist. For my nonfiction, I have packing lists. I've got a road trip packing list that people can download for free. They'll be on my list, and then they're prompted to, it's like, oh, since you like road trips, you'll love this book, Planning Your Perfect Road Trip. So an email list is a good way to build your readership and connect with your readers. Also, you can advertise on your website, and you can also advertise on Goodreads. A caution about Goodreads, the reviewers there can be a little more difficult. There are some people that will not give more than a 3-star rating, no matter how much they love the book. So let's say, oh, this book was amazing. I loved it so much, and it just couldn't put it down. 3 stars. But that's just kind of a known issue with Goodreads. It's still a good place to go. With Amazon, when you upload a book through KDP, then you get your own author page. So it's called Author Central. And that is a place where you can have your bio, you can have videos, you can also include your RSS feed. So if, like, I've got the RSS feed from my the local tourist, feeds into my Author Central page. Don't look at it right now though, because I need to update it and update my bio and my photos and all that. But it can be a tool as well that can help market your books. Because if people see you've got multiple books and they go check your author page, then they can learn more about you, and it's another way to connect. Kickstarter, I already mentioned. Shopify is you can create your own store, but they also have a whole ecosystem. So people who shop on Shopify could find other accounts and other authors, and maybe find you. There's also advertising. I highly recommend, Brian Cohen has a quarterly challenge. It's free. It's a 5-day challenge. It's actually a week, but 5 days of videos. And it's called the Author Ad Profit 5-Day Challenge. So if you search for that on Facebook, sign up for it. They've also got it on Slack. So if you don't use Facebook, then you can use it on Slack. Changed my author career. I signed up for it in April of 2021. Now that's when I was finishing writing Living Landmarks and still going through chemo, so I didn't do a thing with it. Signed up again in July of that year. Living Landmarks had been out for a couple months, was not selling on Amazon. I was selling direct, but it was not selling on Amazon at all. I did this Author Ad School Challenge, or Author Ad Profit Challenge, and by the time the next one rolled around, I had paid for the school. You can upgrade and pay for a school so that you can have access to this stuff all the time, 3 times over. I went from basically flatlining to increasingly selling, triple digits. And that December, I was in, I was a four-figure month for me, for my books. And that was all because I learned how to do Amazon ads. Now, does that mean if I sold $300, if I made $300 in royalties, did I spend $290 in royalties? No, typically about 10%. The ad costs to like 10% of what I make in royalties. It's worth it. Very helpful group. And they don't have an affiliate program, or else I'd be all over that. Another way to promote your book is to use services called BookFunnel and StoryOrigin. They are very inexpensive. BookFunnel is $15 a month. There's also an annual option. StoryOrigin is $10 a month, also an annual option. These are services that you can use to deliver your book to what are called ARC readers. ARC readers get advanced reader copies. So before your book is launched, you send them copies of your book for free, and they read it. And then when your book is released, then they will hopefully leave reviews. BookFunnel and StoryOrigin give you a platform to be able to send your book to them, your ebook, your digital book to them. They also have newsletter swaps and different promotions and group promos so that you can connect with other authors in your genre and reach their readers, and then they can reach your readers. So they're both very good services. I have barely touched what is possible to do with them. With my next novel that's coming out, I plan on doing a lot more of this promotion, and I will be sure to write about it. Okay, another option is book signings. Book signings can be fun. They can also be demoralizing. They can be challenging. My first book signing at a bookstore, it was a Barnes and Noble, and it was a beautiful Saturday in July, which meant the only people that came were my husband, my brother, and my brother's friend. I left that book signing crying. But I did it, and I was glad I did it. I had they had created a little banner for me, and it was lovely. My next book signings have been much more, profitable, you should say, and more well attended. So it's just, they can be a lot of work. I have the friend, she's the 100 Things to Do in Wisconsin Before You Die. This is Danelle Gay. She had published this book. I mean, how many authors actually have a ribbon cutting at their book lunch party? That's Danelle. She scheduled book signings at every place that's in this 100 Things to Do in Wisconsin Before You Die. So you can schedule a ton of book signings, and she's selling a ton of books that way, or you can choose not to. It's a personal preference. All of these are personal preference. You can do all of these. You can do none of them. You can do a mix. Typically, most authors and successful authors will do a mix of them. Libraries are another way to promote your book. I do library presentations. In fact, this last week on Monday, I did a library presentation on planning your perfect road trip. And that's a presentation that eventually became my book, Planning Your Perfect Road Trip, of the same name. They had ordered a copy of my book. They had it on site so that the patrons can check it out. And while I'm not allowed to sell my books at these events, I'm able to reach my readers directly. and libraries have budgets and they will pay you to speak. So while you may not be doing a strict reading of your book, what you can do is create presentations themed around the content that's in your book. This works especially well for nonfiction books. And then you can get an honorarium from the library and then also reach new readers. So that's a great way to expand your audience. Some of my biggest fans have come from these library presentations because when it's in person, they feel like they know you and they connect with you. Trade shows, another way. I always do the Travel and Adventure Show, have since 2015. When I first started, I didn't have any books. My first book didn't come out until 2017. And once I started having books there, it's like, oh, now I have something to give to these people who come to the show, or they buy it. But having my book at this trade show, that's also how I got on stage. I've been speaking at the Travel and Adventure Show now since 2018 because I have a book. So that's another reason to self-publish. It's because of the credibility, or just publish a book, period. It's because of the credibility that you gain and the authority that you gain. You can say, well, I'm not just, I'm an author, and an author saying that carries weight. But trade shows are a good way to get your word out. So see what trade shows are in your industry, your subject matter, and see if you can get a booth. You could do farmers markets, you could do, other small business markets or flea market. I mean, just craft shows. There are different ways. And also, of course, look for book fairs. And then you can do contests and giveaways. That's another way you can market your book, is if you have a contest, maybe when you're promoting your book in the beginning, you can say, hey, whoever can answer these 5 questions that you answer in your book correctly will get a free copy when the book's released, and that can generate some interest. But you could do contests and giveaways throughout the life of your book. I do it occasionally. One of the benefits of having your books with Kindle Unlimited is that 5 days in that 90-day period, for 5 days in that 90-day period, you can give your book away for free. So I did that with my novels for my birthday. When Betrayed at the Beach is coming out in July, and I've got 4 more days left of my 5 days for this period. So I'm going to be giving away Peril on the Peninsula and Revenge in the Rockies before that 90-day period is up, as a way to promote my upcoming book that'll be out just a few weeks later, which is on pre-order right now. So you can do giveaways and contests to help promote your book. Okay, now the final question is it worth it? Obviously, I think so. I keep writing books. I can't stop. It's definitely worth it. I mean, it's at the show last week, the Midwest Travel Network Conference. I knew of several authors, and so I just asked them to tell me what doors had opened for them, because they were now published authors. They had these books, and that some were doing library presentations. A lot of them have appearances on their local media. One of them has now she's appearing on her local TV station every month. And she's talking about travel and things to do. And that happened because she's a published author and she's got another book coming out. And I mean, there were stories like that all over the room. And that's what happened. I had already mentioned that for me, that's what got me on stage at the Travel and Adventure Show. Now I've spoken in Chicago and LA and Denver and San Diego, and that wouldn't have happened without a book. It also allows me to just reach so many more people and, connect with them. So I fully believe it's worth it. Okay, absolutely. Well, actually, Barb, this is it, because the next part, I'm just going to do a little promotion. So if you want to, I'll take you off, put your mic back on if that's okay. If you want to unmute, and then go ahead and ask. So thank you too for being here. Oh, you're still muted. Let me. Barb, you're still muted. I think you have to unmute on your end.
Sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
First, I was apologizing for interrupting. I didn't mean to hit send.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. My second question, I have 2 nitpicky, but I couldn't understand. All my books have been traditionally published, so I didn't ever get the ISBN numbers. Did you say COWPER? COWPER?
It's Bowker. I'm going to type it in the chat. It's BOWKER.
Oh, boy, I misunderstood that.
Oh, that's okay. I speak very quickly.
BOWKER.
Yes.
And then when you were talking about the fulfillment service that was coming to the United States, something ball,
Book Vault.
clickball or book
It's
ball
a
or
Book Vault. The word book and then vault, VAULT.
oh, okay, balls. I
Yeah.
need hearing aids.
Oh no,
No,
like I
this
said, I speak really quickly too, and I knew I had a lot to cover, so I wanted to.
oh, you covered a lot. It was amazing. I mean, really, and especially all this. I loved it, particularly although your thing about where to publish and your insights on to working with these various platforms, because things like that Draft to Digital has easier, better customer service than Ingram, and I mean, just all sorts of things that only somebody who's done it is going to know. So I appreciate it very much.
Sure. Deidre, did you have any questions? No? Okay. Well, I do offer a full self-publishing course. And it covers all of this in greater detail. And I also have videos showing the upload process for KDP and Ingram, different formatting software you can use. There's a full soup to nuts checklist that covers everything. It's so all the various steps. There's a video on getting your ISBN and using Bowker. There's a video on Atticus, which is a formatting software that I use because Vellum is available for Mac. Atticus is available on all the platforms. So there are videos for most. There's almost all the modules have videos. There's also a glossary of terms, different resources that I use, including the Facebook groups I recommend, as well as different books that I recommend, because I'm constantly reading to try to learn more about this. Because this is, I'm an author, and well, I still have the local tourist, and I don't plan on ever giving that up. I love writing books and publishing them, and I want to continue with that. So the course is $197, but I'm offering a $50 deal. The QR code will take you there. It's tlt.rocks/selfpubmtn. This was a discount I offered for the trade show last week, but I'm continuing it. However, I also just launched Obsessed with Writing. It is my new Substack. And with that, I'm offering a VIP inner circle. So with Substack, you can have free subscriptions, paid subscriptions, and then you can also do what they call founding members. I'm calling it my VIP inner circle. And it's $197, but you get access to all three of my courses. The SEO for Writers, which is normally $147, and it covers how to write for Google without sounding like you're writing for Google. And there are all the different keyword research tools that you can use, where to put the keywords, and then how to actually put them, rank in Google without sounding like you're ranking. Travel Writing Mastery, Barbara, that is the course that's basically the Gulf Shores, the travel writing workshop that we did live in Gulf Shores. That's now in digital form. I've recorded, it's got, I can't remember, 30 something different modules. I mean, it took all of that training plus more, and I put it in the course. It's normally $497. And then of course, the Simple Self-Publishing, which is normally $197. So I am offering all of that. Anybody who is one of the early signups for my VIP inner circle gets it for $197. They get access to all three of those courses. So that's it. And that's livingwrite.substack.com. And the Living Write is WRITE.substack.com. And if you want to, you can go ahead and subscribe for free. I think, Deidre, you had subscribed earlier. So thank you for that. And yeah, any other questions you might have?
I want to know what kind of vitamins you take to have this much energy.
Well, I have all new cells after chemo. So,
That's true.
I'm a
That's
new
true.
person.